Hello students, welcome to short concept video session on medico apps. Today I'll be discussing a topic from dental histology and the topic's name is enamel tuft. Now enamel tuft is basically an important topic, especially from theoretical point of view, as a short note can be asked and also a long note can be framed. How a short note can be framed? So enamel tuft itself is a short note question and long note question I'll be explaining in this lecture. But before that, before explaining this entire lecture, I want you to subscribe my YouTube channel so that whenever I'll be putting across such important topic of discussion and MCQ discussion, you will be notified. For that, you need to hit the bell icon and just subscribe our channel. So let's start today's topic of discussion, that is the enamel tufts. Now, if I say and if I use a word enamel tuft, what do you understand by that? So enamel tuft is basically a hypomineralized structure or a hypocalcified structure. So hypomineralized, if you divide it into two terms, hypo means whenever something is less and mineralized means the minerals are less in this particular structure. So this is a hypomineralized structure. Now, how will you define this enamel tuft? So the definition of enamel tuft to an examiner in your short note question answer will be that it's a narrow ribbon-like structure. Okay, so as you can see, these are the enamel tufts we are discussing. So they are ribbon-like structure. Don't they resemble a ribbon-like structure? Something like this. So they are narrow ribbon-like structure where the inner end lies in the dentin. Okay, so this is the enamel. This is the dentinoenamel junction. This is the dentinoenamel junction. This is your enamel and this is the dentin. So it basically arises from the dentinoenamel junction, extending from the dentin, reaching to the dentinoenamel junction. Okay. Now, this enamel tuft basically resemble the tufts of the grass. So as you can see in this image, don't they resemble a narrow ribbon-like and also tufts of grass? Now, this is basically resembling when we see the ground section. Okay, so when we see a ground section, they resemble the tufts of grass. Why? Because they have three ends. Okay, they have three ends, so they resemble like a tuft of grass. So how will you define enamel tuft? It's a narrow ribbon-like structure where the inner end which arises at the dentin and they resemble the tufts of the grass when viewed in the ground section. Now, what is the location? Where do we find these enamel tufts? So, enamel tufts basically extends at the or arises at the dentinoenamel junction. So, this is your dentinoenamel junction. Here you are seeing this is the dentinoenamel junction. So, these arises and extends from the dentinoenamel junction. And where do they extend? Where are they extending? They are extending into the enamel structure. Until where they'll be extending? So they'll be extending 1/5 to 1/3 of the enamel thickness. Okay, if you define or if you divide the enamel into 4 parts or 3 parts, you will say that the enamel tufts will be extending to the 1/5 to 1/3 thickness of the enamel. So they are somewhat reaching to the 1/5 to 1/3 of the enamel thickness, and they are arising from the inner end is arising from the dentin and extending to the dentinoenamel junction. So that is the location of enamel tuft. So I hope you have understood the definition and the location. With this, how does this appear? I have already told you that they appear like a narrow ribbon-like structure. They resemble tufts of grass. But where do they go? How do they extend? Extension, I have already told you that they extend into the enamel 1/5 to 1/3 of the thickness of enamel. But how do they extend? In which direction do they extend? So they extend in the long axis of the crown. That means they are extending in the longitudinal direction. Therefore, they'll be seen abundantly in the horizontal section. Okay, so the third key point here is that the direction of extension of these enamel tufts is in the long axis of the crown. Okay, that is longitudinal. With this, the third important point we have discussed about the structure and the extension. Now, how are they composed and what are they composed of? So I have already told you that they consist of they are hypomineralized structures. So they consist of hypocalcified enamel rods and interprismatic substances. Now these interprismatic or these hypocalcified enamel rods, they consist of protein. Now the protein content of tuft is 13.17 Kd protein. Okay, so the composition, how they are composed of hypocalcified enamel rods, they consist of hypocalcified enamel rods, they consist of interprismatic substances, and they also contain enamel protein, and that content of the protein is 13.17 Kd. Okay, so this is the composition of the enamel tufts. So till now we have discussed about the definition, the location, the structure, that is the extension into the long axis of the crown, and also the composition of the enamel tufts. With this, lastly, I want to also discuss about the development. So how are they developed? So the development is very important to understand. So consider in a tooth enamel, if this is a tooth, okay, this is a tooth, and these are the enamel layers which are forming. They are forming one by one. Okay, but consider if there is a void in between where this enamel matrix is not laid. But in such cases where there is the enamel matrix is not laid, there is a developmental void which takes place. Okay, where no enamel matrix is there. Okay, there is no enamel matrix has laid down at this particular point. Now, so these areas where there is no enamel matrix which has laid down, these enamel matrix proteins, okay, these enamel matrix proteins migrate to these places where there is a void to fill this void. Okay, wherever there is a void, they will be filled by these proteins. What protein? The enamel tufts, because the enamel tufts are formed by the protein. I have already discussed the enamel protein is forming the enamel tufts. So this particular void is filled by the enamel protein. So if this void is filled by a protein, it will have a reduced mineral content. Now, if they will have a reduced mineral content, what will you call such condition? Yes, they are hypomineralized. Okay, because there is less of mineralization and more of organic content is present, because the calcification is getting and the protein is getting accumulated in those voids. Okay, so we will say that developmentally they are formed due to abrupt change in the direction of rod. Now, whenever there is abrupt change in the direction of rod, there will definitely be a void, and that void will be filled by these proteins, and these proteins will give rise to enamel tufts, and that will lead to different ratio of inter-rod and rod enamel, and likely, as I have told you, which will result in less mineralization and weakened planes. So this is how the enamel tufts are formed. So I hope you have understood the definition, the structure, location, and also the composition and how they are developed. So this is enamel tuft for you. Keep watching such kind of important topic discussion with me, and don't forget to subscribe our BDS Express YouTube channel. In case you want daily updates on important dental topics, kindly join our exclusive WhatsApp group, and the link for that is www.medicoapps.org/group. Kindly join this group. The link of this group is also given in the description below. Kindly join it and keep getting such kind of important topic discussions. Thank you for now. Good day. Good luck.